Jehovah, Jehovah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who revealed his name from the burning bush. He said, I am who I am, this is his name forever, a covenant to every generation. When the fire burned, but the bush never died. Jehovah, Jehovah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who revealed his name from the burning bush. He said, I am who I am, this is his name forever, a covenant to every generation. When the fire burned, but the bush never died. Moses say, what is your name, Most High? Jehovah speak with lightning in his voice. I am that I am your choice. Tell Israel, I am sent you this day. The God of your fathers lead the way. Oh, this is my name, forever proclaim. Jehovah, eternal, never change. I am who I am, forever the same. Praise his holy name. I am who I am, Jehovah reign. I am who I am, who I am, Jehovah. I am who I am, Almighty One. I am who I am, covenant keeper, name above all names. I am who I am, forever, Jehovah, 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 praise him, praise him. He say, I am the Lord, hear my command. By my name, Jehovah, you shall understand. To Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, I was known. But now my covenant shall be shown. Jehovah passed before Moses with glory. Proclaim his name, eternal story. Merciful, gracious, slow to anger, full of goodness, mighty Savior. I am who I am. I am who I am. Glorious Redeemer. I am who I am. I am who I am. Jehovah. I am who I am. I am who I am. Covenant King.
All right, folks, that is where we at Civic Vibes. Yes, we want to say a special greetings and welcome to all of you locked in to this space at this time.
Forever, forever.
Today being the 3rd of May, 2026. And that is how we want to get your afternoon or this program going as well. It's entitled, I Am Who I Am.
We know God formed after.
From a group called Steffa Productions.
I alone save, I alone am the one.
Very, very brilliant group, huh?
First and last, eternal.
They deal with all genres of music, huh?
Over Shama, ever present majesty.
So if you have never heard about this group as yet, Steffa Productions,
Shout again.
I beseech you to look them up, huh? Like and follow their vibes. Good vibes indeed.
Who reveal his
Again, it is Tefa Productions. Starting us off here with this one called I Am Who I Am.
Forever proclaim.
Just giving a good lot above, some big thanks, big praise as we get together to start this program here, 10 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. In Dominica and in the regional space in which we live.
Praise his holy name. Jehovah.
And yes, no matter what time of day or what time of space it is in your neck of the wood, good evening, good morning, good night to you. With this technology thing, huh? Everybody and anybody can be tuned in at any time, no matter the time or space.
Mr. Samuel.
So this evening's program, yes, promises to be another big one. With our guest from Antigua and Barbuda, no stranger to us at Civic Vibes, I can tell you that. Alvin and our crew at Civic Vibes will agree that this brother can be termed an associate now of Civic Vibes, yes? And I'm talking about none other than Mr. Vierbird III of Antigua and Barbuda, attorney at law.
You shall understand.
A regular voice here at Civic Vibes for sure.
I was known, but now
a very profound brother, a very prudent one as well.
Jehovah passed before Moses with glory.
He said as it is.
His name, eternal story.
So folks, if you're tuning in at this time, we're 10 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. And we're just about to get off the ground, as it were, yet another very informative program from the Civic Vibes desk here in Dominica. All I ask at this time is that you keep it to the sport that you got. Share, like the page.
Jehovah.
Tell Lou to tell Sue, tell Paul to tell all that your favorite program is on, and they too, yes, can participate. All of you out there. My good buddy, Margaret. Good evening to you, my friend. None other than Margaret Wallace.
My name.
I normally ask this young lady, where does she get this energy from, huh? So Margaret, I'm taking a page, I'm taking a leaf from your book in terms of the energy. Gemma Daniel, you're there. Magdalene Augustine, you're there. Rosa Robinson, you're there as well. My dear friend Carol, good evening to you. That is Carol Olivachi Bruni.
Jehovah Shammah.
And the host of you guys already here, good evening to you in a very, very special way. Edna, Denise, you're just logging in.
Revelation, shout again.
Folks, enough of me. Let me move across now to my brother, Alvin Thomas. Alvin, good evening to you in a very special way, bro.
Yes, good evening, Lofty. Good evening to you and all our many folks who have already tuned into the program, logged in. I know you have called out some of them already. I too like to join you in saying a pleasant good evening to everyone, and in particular, of course, our guest. Well, should I say a guest? He's part of Civic Vibes family, you know.
Yes.
Let me say family. Our family. Vierbird III, who will be. I'm sure the conversation is going to be quite stimulating and interesting this evening. But Lofty, I also want to take the opportunity to shout out all the trade unions, the labor unions, and their members out in Dominica and throughout the region. 2 days ago was May Day, but it's been celebrated or observed, I believe, tomorrow. So as myself, a former labor man, well, I wouldn't say former, you know, once a trade union is always a trade unionist. I really want to send my best wishes to all the workers in Dominica in particular and the rest of the region as they observe and celebrate Labor Day. Lofty, that is maybe a topic we need to have at some point in time. Maybe bring a few labor persons or workers, because the labor movement has done quite a bit in the region. As a matter of fact, I keep repeating that, and you may have heard it from me before. Every one of the political parties came out of the labor movement. Everyone. Antigua, Dominica, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts, you name it, came out of the labor movement. So the labor movement has been a very formidable organization. As a matter of fact, in the Constitution of Dominica, The only organization that is mentioned by name is the trade union movement in the Constitution of Dominica, where it says that workers have a right to form trade unions. So that shows you the significance and importance of a trade union. And I also want to say congratulations to the unions in Dominica for having formed the Dominica Trade Union Congress, something that has been in discussion for quite some time. And they have finally got to the point where they have formed a Dominica Trade Union Congress. And this year, Labor Day, is their first Labor Day celebration as a Congress. So my hats out to you, my best wishes, my congratulations. And to say to workers that you must stand up and protect your rights. These are rights that were fought for many years ago. Fewer working hours, better working condition, workman compensation, safety on the job, you name it. And Lofty, I also want to shout out to the folks in the Kalinago territory and the Northeast. As you know, Lofty, last Sunday, while we won this program or just ending our program, there was a major disaster taking place in Dominica. And I myself saw some of the video footings from some of the disaster that occurred in the Kalinago territory and at Kingston and the various other areas, and it was really heartbreaking. So I want to send out my support and best wishes, in particular to the Kalinago Chief Annette Sanford, the chief and her people in the Kalinago territory, and to say to them, be strong. It was what, 11 years ago, maybe 2015, I think, when you had Maria, similar situation. And here we go again, 11 years later, we had that devastation taking place in the Kalinago territory. So my heart goes out to them. Stay strong, be supportive, and making an appeal to all of us out here in the diaspora, as well as locally, who can lend a hand, who can provide some support to go ahead and to do that. So that being said, Lofty, let's get into the conversation. I know there's a lot for us to discuss as it relates to the just concluded Antigua election, and what lessons, if any, can we in Dominica learn out of that, if there are any lessons to be learned or parallels that can be made. So that are my few words, and sit back, relax, and let's have a great conversation.
All right, Alvin, Thomas, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening salvo, as it were. You touched on a number of topics, and I too concur with all of what you touched on in terms of the happenings rather in Dominica of late. Let us now focus here now on our guest, Brother Vierbert III from Antigua and Barbuda. Those of you tuning in now, he's from Antigua and Barbuda, practicing attorney in that Twin Island state. And so he's no stranger to us. We normally hear his voice, ever so often coming to chime in on matters, especially as it pertains to his country and the wider region indeed. This brother also, you can follow him on a podcast. He has his podcast every Saturday, I believe, from 2 o'clock. Is that 2 o'clock, brother?
2 to 4.
2 to 4, yes. So you can follow him there as well. He can share with you the link or how you can access him in terms of his output.
Just go Vierbert III on YouTube or Google me. You'll see. I'll be there. You'll find it.
Vierbert III on YouTube. So folks, here it is. So he's no stranger to that kind of thing that is coming to talk to us or speak to us about this afternoon. We just had in Antigua and Barbuda a general election. We heard the results, we saw the results, and his take here this evening is to basically scrutinize some aspects of what went on in his country. And as well, Alvin and I will be sort of, juxtaposing what happened in Antigua and Barbuda, also happening in Dominica as well, and the wider region. So it's a very, very interesting conversation to have this evening. And so what I ask is that you share that live as we speak so that others can join in and participate in the conversation thereof. So without saying much more, it's my pleasure, it's our pleasure at Civic Vibes to again welcome Brother Vierbert III. Good evening to you, brother.
Good evening, Dominica. Hope everyone is well. I'm sorry to hear about the flooding. I actually heard about it from I Show Speed. I think he was over there and he was talking about some flood. I said, hey, what are you talking about? And I said, what? I didn't even realize what was going on, But I want to share a little anecdote with you guys before we get into the politics so much. The Antigua Trades and Labor Union, a group of men got together in January of 1939. The organization or the Friendly Society that we know as the Antigua Trades and Labor Union was officially registered sometime in March of that year, right? What is interesting is that 2 years before that, on the 1st of November, 1937, a man by the name of Marcus Garvey came to Antigua and gave a speech at the Anglican Church Hall on Long Street, St. John's. My grandfather and several of those men who formed the Trades and Labor Union were in the audience, and they were inspired directly by Marcus Garvey's words. So we moved from 1939, and sometime in the 80s, the Rastafarian movement was really strong. You know, Bob Marley was still alive, and he was really going on. So Papa Bird met some Rastamen and them. They talking to him about Rastafarianism and what it means to be a Rastafarian. He said, "Y'all think y'all a Rastafarian? Me more Rastafarian than you than are you this or no?" I met Marcus Garvey. I was inspired. You think y'all inspired by Marcus Garvey? I was there, met the man. I was inspired by the man also. Me more Rasta than are you.
So you said basically he more Rasta than those asking him to follow the movement.
Yep.
The ATNLU movement is part of the roots of Marcus Garvey. He was we come from him. Along with the Rastafari, the ATNLU movement was inspired by him because he came here. He came here twice. The first time he came to Antigua, he was just on his way down to Trinidad. But he promised that he would come back and give a speech, which he did on the 1st of November, 1937.
Yeah.
And if you notice, they say Christopher Columbus discovered Antigua on the 1st of November on his second voyage. I think it was 1492, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 1493, yes.
And our independence is on the 1st of November, 1981. The 1st of November is a very important date. They chose that date not because of the discovery, quote unquote, of Antigua, but because Marcus Garvey gave his speech and inspired the founding fathers on the 1st of November, 1937. So I just wanted to share that with people.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great anecdote for us to start off. They're absolutely right. We also had a gentleman by name, I think it was R. Ralph Kazimi, if I recall. And he too was very much involved in that movement at the time. I mean, and the strange thing about it, there, is that this Kazumi guy was in his 20s, 20-something. And I guess so as Marcus Garvey in his, 20-something. And I mean, we have our labor hero, Emmanuel Loblack. I mean, this is a champion of man. This guy was just 24, I think 23, 24 years when he said, you know what, all this nonsense that's going on there with the workers, we ain't taking it anymore. We're going to do something. And that, if those of you will recall, came out of the Moyne Commission.
That's
and
correct.
Himself and several other persons like Ian Nichols, I think his name was, they were the ones when the commission was appointed from the United Kingdom. These were the persons that they were having conversation with at the time. So Marcus Garvey and all these guys from the region, Bradshaw, Marichaud,
his name,
Bustamante,
yes.
All these guys, and these guys, I'm telling you, they were in their 20s, 24, 25, whatever. But those guys recognized at the time that we are not going to sit by and allow these things to happen.
Right. They are a source of inspiration for us all. And the selflessness is what is missing in our politics today, the selflessness. These guys
absolutely
multi-millionaires now. A lot of these men were just making it, just barely making it and all at the end of their lives. It wasn't about money.
No, but you see, Brother Bird, if you are so interested in humanity, as it were, and the cause for humanity, then there's very little room, wiggle room that is, for you to line your pockets, for you to look after your economic prowess. Unlike what we have today in our region posing as leaders, that is on their foremost on their mind. But these guys that you guys are mentioning here tonight, based on what I read, based on what I know in terms of me following, these guys were not cut for that. They were not cut from that kind of cloth. They call a spade, and they basically, you know, set things right, as it were, and people follow them. So the follow-up question to you now, to you and Alvin, where have we now as a generation dropped that ball? Where did we end up where we are today? Why did we end up where we are today?
Well, I know Viet will respond to that, but let me just say very quickly, that is why, Lofty, it is important as a people, and there is one African guy who made that comment, you know, it's important as a people that we know of our history.
Very important.
A man who does not know his history or his history will not know how to traverse.
Yeah, how to move forward.
So history is important. History is important. It is important to understand that history and to let our young people know today. Look, bro, look, sister, this is the trajectory. That is the path. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go back and redo or reincarnate the past, but you must have an appreciation, because it did not just all happen like that. And the young people must understand whatever gains that they benefit today, it didn't just happen like that. It wasn't like Nesquik coffee. There was struggle that went into it, perseverance, shedding of blood, of lives for us to be where we are. So I think to answer your question, I think we have to go back in history, and we've heard it on that program before. One of the things that is lacking in schools, and I can say for Dominica, I don't know if you could speak to Antigua, is civics. That is no longer available in the schools. So people, young people today do not have an appreciation of values, of civic responsibility, the rights and responsibility and those type of things. So I would just interject that there, and I'm sure Via would be able to share his own experience from Antigua's perspective and even the wider Caribbean.
Well, to answer your question, Lofty, I think where we fall in the Caribbean is that we had a good blueprint, we had a good plan, we had committed people, but life is dynamic, generations change, people want to try new things, and I believe that we've cast aside too much of the teachings and the principles, and we basically said that they're old school or they're antiquated, and where we should have held on to them because they were a success, we have cast them aside, and that is where the problem has lied. That is where we have this issue of people, to me, watching a lot of cable, watching a lot of stuff on internet, and want to imitate from outside and not from this region. We have creative people. We have people, heroes amongst us. And instead of imitating or emulating these individuals, we have fallen astray and have not looked towards our own and our own success stories. Are you there, guys?
Yes, we're there.
Okay. I don't think we have been looking internally to see. We had a lot of success fighting the colonials. And in regards to the trade unions, they were so strong at one point in time. But as I said, life is dynamic, and I think we threw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. Instead of holding on to the majority, what is the value? We cast aside too much and think we can be like America. We can be anywhere that you see on YouTube and is popular and swinging. We forget our traditions, our teachings. And it's
so in terms of sharing of the blame now, as it were, we'll get into a conversation in just a while, but we're just having a chit chat here. In terms of sharing of the blame, based on how you explained it, Brother Bird, is it that the elders who experience such teachings, experience such times, experience such lifestyle, is it that they did not do justice to the work that you're talking about, the spirit that existed back then in terms of passing down that information, or this quote unquote new generation did not latch on to the teachings of our elders?
I would answer that question as I did before. It's generational. They have a different mindset. But you have to look, and I'll speak for Antigua. When they talk about the achievements of V.C. Bird in Antigua and in the Leeward Islands, in our islands, our region, people fail to realize that 2/3 of his achievements are under the AT and LU. The Antigua Labour Party only came into existence in 1968. My grandfather has been active in politics and in the union since 39, if not before that, right? The union was very important. What happened is that they did separate the union from and they formed a Labour Party. And I have a feeling that when you empowered the politicians, I think the politicians took the thunder out of the unions. They wanted to be more popular. As in Antigua, they said the party is bounded to the union in perpetuity. They're never going to let go. It's like some sort of virus in the system. It has embedded itself into the union because the union has so many members. And a lot of times the Labour Party would basically be claiming those members as their own. I believe that you see it very common in Antigua, and what I said, people are not aware of that. People thought that people were fighting party politics back in 1946 when my grandfather entered to run for the legislature first time. There was no party back then.
That's right.
Party politics only came in 1968.
That's right.
When the Antigua Trades and Labor Union, there was a schism between my grandfather and George Walter, his general secretary. And they had a by-election in 68, and Mr. Walter won all the seats in the by-election. So it was just a matter of time my grandfather saw the writing on the wall. And by 71, the first party election, when we had election, before it was just under the Antigua Trades and Labor Union, they had a political action committee. That's what
correct.
Grandfather was elected on to the legislature. There was no ALP. So when
That's
I tell
correct.
2/3 of his achievements, my grandfather, adult suffrage in 51, the great strike against Moody Stewart. They were eating widdy bush and sugar cane and fishing and looking for cockles for nearly a year, and they refused to collect that harvest to get better wages. When he said he's going to starve out Antigua, that wasn't the Labour Party's work. When he
and interestingly, if I may just interject,
go ahead, man.
Because that is where people don't understand, and that's why I say we have to go back to the history.
Right.
Because at the time, the trade unions and say, look, we want, based on what we are just describing Antigua and Dominica and throughout, but in order for the workers to be able to benefit in a holistic way, some of these issues has to put itself in the form of legislation.
Right.
So that is where the legislation comes in. So, and as he rightly said, his grandfather, at the time, with the support of the labor movement, say, look, this is a guy we need in the legislature because he can then go there now and pass the laws that we need for the workers.
Right.
The fewer working hours, the better working condition, because all of that must have some sort of legislative framework. It's all well and good for us to go there and say, we want it, and they agree to give it. But we must have people in the legislature now to be able to advocate on behalf of the workers. But then what happened in throughout the region, when these guys get there on the shoulders of the labor movement, and they start to enjoy and taste power, they forget the movement.
Yeah.
They forget from where did we come from wherefore did we come. And that is why I'm one that will advocate to the workers throughout the region and the labor movement that they must stand firm. They must stand firm and hold their ground, because all of these political parties, talking about 1968 against 1949, all of these political parties emerge out of the trade union. They all, everyone. And rather than go there and represent the interest of the workers and the citizens at large, some of them, I wouldn't say all, or most of them go in there and represent their own personal interest.
Yeah.
And kick off the ladder that helped them to get to that position and forget the cause and the rights of the workers.
Yeah. All right, Alvin, thank you very much. Nice sort of springboard to get into the conversation we're about to have now. Folks, if you're tuning in, we have people like Viva Mamu there, Conrad Coffee, Share, good evening to you. Julius, Brother Samson, good evening to you. Bernard Aline, long time to hear, long time to see, bro. Good evening to you as well. Marshall Lawrence, Bernadette Myler, you're there. Brian Francis, you're also there. Alan Pierre, good evening. Anitha Adams Bernard, you're also there. Simeon George, Curtis Daisy, Edna Ernest, Jeremy Daniel, Luis Viri Luis, is that? I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Viri. Good evening to all of you at this time as we're about to,
just very quickly, Lofty, very quickly.
Yes.
I know Via mentioned the 1937 1st November meeting in Antigua. And I told you about our own Dominican J.R. Ralph Kazimi. There's a book written and it's called Black Man Listen. Black Man Listen by his granddaughter, I think, Kathy Kazimi McLean. And it says right there, it was Ralph Kazimi who took charge of making the arrangement for Garvey's visit to Dominica on the 30th of October, 1937.
Okay.
So he was making the wrong. He went to Dominica, from Dominica he went to Antigua. That's a recommended book. I'd recommend that.
The time frames that I mentioned coincide.
Exactly.
We're not making this stuff up. He was in the region.
No. It's right there in this book. There's a whole history in that. And this is a recommended reading for many Dominicans, especially young Black men and Black women in Dominica should get a hold of that book and read it. And it tells you what the struggle was like with persons like Kazimi and several other persons mentioned in this book. Black Man Listen, The Life of J.R. Ralph Kazimi. An interesting book to read.
Yeah. And Alvin, just on a side there before we get into the conversation. I remember growing up as a young boy. A monument was set up by the roundabout just close to the PMH. You remember that, Alvin?
Yes, absolutely.
Where this man was portrayed.
Yes.
And for some strange reason, I don't know whatever it's natural disaster, whatever it is, or just, the passing of time, that monument was destroyed. And up to now,
replaced.
It is no more.
Yeah,
never
replaced.
So that speaks to now we as a people, not government now, we as a people, the value we place on these men and their contribution.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, folks, good evening again. Brother Verwood, good evening to you. In terms of how you saw what went down in Antigua and Barbuda election, we heard of the landslide victory 15-2, I believe, in the favor of the ALP. Gaston Brong is the leader of that party.
Right.
Where do you want to start with us in terms of, an update or sort of going back down that road to help us understand what happened in Antigua in terms of the dynamics that play with you guys election?
I wanted to start 2 months ago when I was on this very program.
Okay.
And I predicted the same thing. I told you, don't waste your time and ticket to come to Antigua.
Because I was then 23. I remember.
You're wasting your time this time. It's not going to be any upset. It's going to be.
And you were spot on. You were spot on indeed. You were spot on.
Yeah. Well, it's 3 years from the last election, 2023, the 18th of January, 30th of April, 2026. You understand? Our tourist season goes from November to April. So that is why the Prime Minister would not pass April with an election in May or any later, because it's a 6-month cycle of tourism. And then after that, people are trying to transition to find other work. So he wanted it at the very end when people still had jobs before they'd be able to work to go to the polls. So we all knew it would have been in April, the latest. What can I say is that one of the things that we practice, it is our in our constitution, is the Westminster style of government. And in the Westminster style of government, when you vote for a party, or an individual that is a candidate for the party. So if you vote for him and he's successful, he has to get the minimum amount of votes or the minimum amount of seats to form a government. And then the individual who becomes the prime minister is selected by these people who you have elected to be representative. We do not directly elect prime ministers in this region. That's the Westminster system. Now, when they form the government, their job is to run the country, to administer the country. The leader of the opposition has a role also. He's lost at the polls, but he has a job that he must be ready when an election is called. Or if for any unforetold reason there are deaths in the other side, they cannot hold a majority, they may be by-elections, they may be a general election, they must be ready to run the country as an opposition. The leader of the opposition in Antigua, Jamal Pringle, since that last election in 2023, January 2023, the leader at that point in time was Harold Lovell. Harold Lovell lost his seat by lost the election by about 6 votes, and he immediately resigned. Jamal Pringle was the longest serving representative, and I believe he filled a vacuum at that point in time because they had another 5 that won their seats, but he was the longest serving. They used to call him Single Pringle because he was the only one in the opposition in the parliament. Before now again, you understand? So he filled the vacuum, became the leader of the opposition. They only held a by-election in 2023, and then by 2024, they had a convention. This election was lost at the convention in 2024 because the elected leader was not able to pull the party together to move ahead from the bitterness and the uproar in people who felt that he was not the best choice or that other individuals should not have been in those positions that they were elected to. Part of the reason that the UPP had a dispo stems from that convention. Look from the outside, because I'm not a member of the UPP, but from the outside looking in, the election was so close, they only lost by 6 votes from taking office. My contention is that when they went to that convention, people had it in their minds that they were going to win the next election whenever it was called. So they were not looking to continue fighting or to agitating, as it was so close, it was neck and neck. Everybody went in there seeking positions, high positions in the party, and thought that would transfer over when they win the election into political power in whatever ministries. And that is where they fell down. Everybody were convinced that they would have won the next election. And they stopped working. There's not been very much the opposition has really fought the government on in the last 3 years. So that is why when I came on the program, and I was like, you guys are calling your third party, the UPP. I told y'all need to separate yourselves. Right? The Dominica United Progressive Party. It is a problem over here because this organization, Lofty, I'm of the opinion that I look at things at this result as the glass is half full, not half empty. Why I say that? Because you know those old Western movies when the horse goes lame or it broke his foot, they put it out his misery? I believe that is what has happened to the UPP in Antigua.
Yeah, Brother Bird, not wanting to interject here.
Yes.
But I must ask you to sort of, I know you said you acknowledge you're not part and parcel in terms of membership, that is, of the United Progressive Party in Antigua and Barbuda, that is. Yeah. But what are some of the things that you have been hearing that, as you said, from this delegates conference in 24, that basically from there they went in a downslide mode and could not recover from that? What were some of the things that were happening there based on your hearing, sir?
Well,
or your understanding?
Hearing it was visual that many of the stalwarts of the party that had fought the Lester Bird administration and had won the election in 2004, and they served for 10 years. A lot of the stalwarts were so disgusted at the leader of the opposition and a lot of the people who were appointed that they packed their bags and left that organization.
So why the disagreement with Mr. Lovell?
Left the organization and joined the Antigua Labour Party. That was the amazing thing. One of the candidates who won his seat, Anthony Smith, he became an independent, and they gave him a ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture in the Antigua Labour Party administration. He won his seat on the UPP ticket. And left those guys aside, claimed he was an independent. He's an independent that had a ministry in the
government. But why
as a Labour Party candidate? He's no Labour Party now.
Wow. Why that level of discontent though with Mr. Lovell then? Why? Well, what were some of the things that you were hearing?
Well, I ran on the Antigua True Labour Party 2 elections back, 2014 and 2018. We have been allied with the UPP since late 2014, 2015, so about 8 years until we broke it off, even because of this Mr. Pringle. But before that, Mr. Lovell, even fighting, the last election was very close, and Mr. Lovell did a good job. They did not have a lot of money.
It was 8-9.
Yes, they did not have a lot of money, but they had campaigned for 2 years consistently. Okay. And that the results had shown, even though they did not win, they had moved from having a very small representation in Parliament, which was 1, to, I believe in all, it was 6. It was 6 UPP, 1 in Barbuda, Trevor Walker, which was Barbuda's People Movement, right? 7. And then the 8th one was the late Asset Michael, who ran as an independent.
Yes, in St. Peter's.
St. Peter's, correct. So that is the 8th opposition, but 6 of them were from the UPP. Mr. Lovell came out of a group previous to the UPP, the ACLM. They're supposed to be a communist-based organization headed by Tim Hector. In the late 60s, early 70s is when they were really popular, right? I believe that he has always had a stigma attached to him, or most of them ACLM guys, that they are communists. They are part of the UPP. Their organization blended or merged into the UPP, but they were in there. But even the diehard, which the majority of the UPP were probably from the PLM, the defunct administration that formed government from 71 to 76 in Antigua. They always kept their eyes on them. They would have them in the party. They're very activist. They're very active oriented. You always see them on the front line. They're always fighting and so on. They're very ideologically. They take action. They don't talk. They take a lot of action. They're the workers. You understand? But when they're going to put them into a position of power, that was always shied away from the other organizations that made up the UPP. So I believe he's always had that. I used to ask them why. I used to hear, I've never heard people attack him, Mr. Lovell, as badly as the UPP people. And I'm on the outside and say, but what did he do that is so bad? Harold is not ministerial, is not prime minister material. Harold Lovell can't manage the economy, can't run the country. And that was coming from his own people in his own party. And I always found it strange. A lot of the people were talking why they said that was because he was the Minister of Finance. They felt that he had damaged Antigua's economy. They were saying so also because he had as the Minister of Finance, he pulled off a fete called the Romantic Ridge, and Kenny Loggins and several of these other artists came into Antigua and Barbuda, and it was a bust because they spent more money than they made. But I've never really understood the reason why his own supporter, his own party had it in for him more so than even the government. And then we move on now to Mr. Pringle now. Mr. Pringle, me personally, I feel that Mr. Pringle is compromised.
So based on what you said, brother, about Brother Lovell before you go to Pringle,
yes,
would you say, is it a case of when we as Black people say, do you damn, don't do you still damn, in Brother Lovell's case?
Definitely. I believe so. I believe that he's had a bad rap, because they've always been, they've always had it in for those communist ACLM guys from back in the day.
Okay.
And a good amount of them are in the party still, you know. They form a very significant part of the UPP. The sort of get up and do sort of guys. They're older now, you know, in their younger days, they were firebrands. You understand? But I believe he has a bad rap for that part. The economy was not going well even before Harold Lovell became the Minister of Finance. You remember, he became the Minister of Finance in 2009. What happened to Antigua in 2009 is because of the R. Allen Stanford Ponzi scheme, where Mr. Allen and R. Allen Stanford was welcomed into Antigua with open arms by the Antigua Labour Party. The criminal allegations were made about him, and he was held in 2009. But the economy collapsed, and Mr. Lovell gets blamed for that, not for the people that brought in a Ponzi scheme to be the second largest employer in Antigua and Barbuda. After the government, Allen Stanford employed more people than anybody else in Antigua. Who gets the blame? Harold Lovell.
Wow. That's a tough one, but
very hard, man. I feel bad for him, you know, but that's politics. That's politics.
Alvin.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, though. But let me ask you, Veer, the comparisons, I'm not sure if it's the same, but you had in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the leader of the party, Gonzalez, as the only person winning his seat.
Yes.
Top seat, they say. And I think you had a similar situation in St. Lucia with Chasney. And now you have the same thing now happening in Antigua with Pringle. So
happened twice.
Twice.
He started off like that.
Yes.
He started off like that in 2014.
That's right. That's right. But the question that I have for you, quite apart from what you described in terms of the party infighting or whatever we might want to call it, what about the platform on which the opposition was running? Because, you know, politics, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to win the hearts and minds of the electorate. And the electorate is looking at two parties, two individuals before them and say, hey, this is what I promise I can do for you, or this is your situation now, and this is how, if you elect me to represent you, I can change your situation.
Yes.
What of the platform on which the opposition was running? Was it a platform that resonates with the people, or it was the same old, same old?
Alvin, but bear in mind too, just before Verbit comes in, Alvin, bear in mind too, that is the same party that gave the ALP serious competition in 23.
Exactly.
By winning 8 seats.
That is true.
9. So keep that in mind. Whatever the platform they used in 23, to me and to other people, it worked. But
I'm glad you raised that. So that's what I'm asking.
The greater point that Brother Bird spoke to is that level of infighting within that they could not recover from.
No, I got that.
That to me speaks volume.
I got that. And that is why I'm asking that as is, which is true, and I agree with how you've just put it. But the fact that they were able to win the last time around, this time around, was their platform different?
Okay.
And that's why I'm asking about the platform. And was it the fact that the infighting placed more pressure on them as against the platform where they may have had a good platform, but because of the infighting, it diluted the platform?
Well, I would answer that by saying, as I mentioned before, that this election was lost by that convention.
Okay.
When we go back to 2023, may have had the infighting, but it was not as bad as after that convention.
Okay.
But even important, why they did so well was not only on their platform, but we had just come off of COVID.
Right.
The way Antigua handled the COVID crisis, they have told the people of Antigua and Barbuda since 2014 that Antigua is the fastest growing economy in the Western Hemisphere, from Canada in the north to Chile in the south. They were telling people how well Antigua's economy was doing. When COVID hit us and they shut down the country, I think that's like the first week, the 1st or 2nd of April, if I'm not mistaken, 2020. Antigua is one of the few countries in our sub-region, in the OECS I'm talking, that gave no economic stimulus whatsoever. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Small businesses which you'd want to keep open just to keep a couple of people employed. And, this person is probably sending the children to school and, is trying to keep on a legacy from their father or so on, and their mother handed them a business. They got nothing. So I believe it resonated in people, but how you're saying we're so wealthy? And Antigua is so wealthy and so rich, and we're better off than these other islands in the OECS. But they're able to give their citizens something, or their star business, small business, something. And we're getting nothing. And we hear about Dominica getting this. We hear Grenada doing that. It resonated in people.
Let me put up my hand, brother. But Dominicans got nothing in essence. There was nothing. There was this little trinkets. But in terms of the substantive stuff that some of the countries got, Dominica, I can see, got nothing. So we are in the same boat.
We didn't even get trinkets, boss. You know, they told us, the Prime Minister said, well, what y'all think all those duty free we gave you on your cars?
Yes.
But kind of walk us back though to that 2024 delegates conference. That zero in there for us. I may sound like a broken record, but I really want to extract from you, Brother Bud. What was some of the things that went on there that sort of, spiraled out of control?
A lot of the people who lost their seats on this last election, majority of them, the candidates, apparently supported another guy, Richard Lewis, who ran in Grace Farm area, Rural West.
Okay.
It seemed like the party stalwarts, the executive, supported Jamal Pringle.
Okay.
Right? The executive won. The candidates the majority of them who supported Richard Lewis, they lost and they gradually faded away. You had Anthony Smith, who became an independent and won his seat now as Labour Party. Sean Bird ran in Rural East against Maria Bird, my cousin. He left the party and he rejoined the Antigua Labour Party. You had Dr. Edmund Mansour, who was one of their IT specialists. He was with them for their 10 years, and he was actually a minister of information under the UPP administration, 2004 to 2014. He left and joined the Antigua Labour Party. You have a gentleman by the name of Dr. Fillmore Benjamin, who is a diehard UPP supporter. and has run several times on it, at least twice on their ticket and lost, but he's a known diehard UPP supporter. He got fed up with the results and know that it was not a winning ticket. And he went and he joined the Antigua Labour Party and won his seat in St. Mary's North on the 30th of May. So people didn't only just get disgusted and left. They went and joined the Labour Party. You have the guy, Dwayne George, who was, what's his name now? Shuggy? What's Shuggy's real name? Simon, out in St. Mary's South. And Andrew Simon, he left the campaign manager for Shuggy Simon.
Kelvin Simon.
Kelvin Simon, right, Kelvin Simon. The campaign, Dwayne George, left and joined the Labour Party and beat his candidate on the Labour Party ticket and is now the representative over Shuggy, while he was Shuggy's campaign manager in 2023.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? These are people who, give me a second, guys. Somebody's calling here. A workman here. Come in here. Give me a second.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. While we wait for Via to come back, Lofty, it's really interesting what Via have just outlined, because I mean, you had situations where candidates or folks from the UPP went across, joined the Labour Party, and won their seats. So one might say it's not a situation with, quote unquote, the candidate or the individual. You see what I'm saying? Because they went across to the Antigua Labour Party and they won. So
Alvin,
clearly,
Eastern, yeah, go ahead.
So clearly, the point that I think you are trying, I know you've asked it a couple of times up there, is to underscore the negative effect or the impact that in-house fighting had on the outcome of the elections.
Alvin, it is said, we're going to take that break in just a while. It is 7 o'clock already. It is said, Alvin,
wow.
A divided house cannot stand.
True.
It means a people that is not united cannot stand.
Yeah.
And all what Bird said, remember I asked Bird 1, 2, 3 times in different ways as to trying to understand from him why that cataclysmic fall, as it were, where the UPP suffered after having won 8 seats in 2023, and Brother Lovell was the leader then, only lost his constituency by 6 votes. That cost the UPP that election. And as he said, clearly articulated, it was the mindset, it was the knowledge wrong that or the understanding wrong that whenever the next election is called, the United Progressive Party would be the next election, having done so well. But here it is, as he said, I didn't say, that delegates conference in 2024, he said, basically everything went down spiral from there. And there are a lot of parallels that we in Dominica can draw from that. I know, Alvin, when I speak in Dominica and I speak my truth as I see it, some people would choose to not look at the message, but attack the messenger. And Brother Bird has said it this afternoon, and we in Dominica should learn from the experiences in Antigua and Barbuda, as he said, based on the fall that this party took. I am boiling it down to a level of division that existed. You cannot be destroying your leader like that. You heard him. Sanford came to Dominica, came to Antigua rather, and had this Ponzi scheme. He got arrested, and for some reason, it turned on Brother Lovell as he being the scapegoat for Sanford's / Antigua's economy demise. And they say politics makes strange bedfellows, Alvin. And I can tell you, based on what happened in Antigua, and it's still happening, we in Dominica should take not just a couple pages, but the book. You showed a book a while ago. We should take Antigua's political book and read from it and learn from it, more importantly, so that our demise as a country now, as political parties in opposition, we could do better, or we will do better.
I'm back,
That's all I have to say for now. Based on brother.
Good to have you back. We're going to take a break in a few, but let me just ask you quickly.
But you heard my
I'm not sure he heard all of it because he had stepped aside.
Okay.
But let me ask you very quickly though. Pringle, Jamal Pringle ran against who?
He ran against another guy that left the UPP. Ran with them in 2018, I think it was. His name was
Smith? Was it Anthony Smith? No,
Lamin Newton.
What's the name?
Lamin Newton was the
Eugene. Okay.
Lamin Newton. But he ran with the UPP in 2018.
Okay.
And joined the Labour Party. So I'm saying it's so much. It's like a detonance when you have such a large one. They say too numerous to mention. The family's so large, numerous to mention. I'm forgetting even Lamin. All of them on the slate for the Antigua Labour Party. 8 of the candidates were from the UPP.
8 of the candidates.
We have 17 seats.
Right.
8 of the candidates were from the UPP.
And how many of that 8 that won?
Who didn't win? No, boy. Most everybody won.
But only the 8 from the UPP that went across. How many of those that won of the 8?
Lamin didn't win against the leader of the opposition, Jamal Pringle.
So just one.
And there's Beezer did not win in St. Barbuda. Okay, remember it's only 2, you know. It's
right.
Leader for the UPP and the leader for the BPM.
BPM, right.
So those 2 guys, Lamin Newton, who was Jamal Pringle's opponent, and a guy by Kendrick Beezer, who was Trevor Walker's opponent, didn't win.
So at least 6 of them won. Wow.
Yeah, 6 out of the 8.
All right, guys, we're going to take that all-important break at this time. But Brother Bird, when we come back, the question first up that I want to push to you is, do you think now, let's flip the coin. There was this infighting, there was this division, whatever it is, among the UPP members in Antigua and Barbuda. Do you think now it was a good strategy on Brother Gaston's Brown's part now to sort of woo these people on his side? Taking into consideration that there was this infighting and obviously dangled some carrots and most of these people sort of fell. Let's take that break. We'll be back in just a bit.
Not a problem.
Much food for thought indeed. Antigua and Barbuda electoral process or processes that should have a lot of meaning or significance for us right here in Dominica. We are just a stone throw away, huh? So I guess what happens in one country sure has the potential to resonate in another.
Babylon, you fail. Yes, you fail. Building more bombs and guns.
When I hear some big men and women in Dominica, folks who are supposed to be politically savvy, politically astute,
The innocent that you slaughtered is
talking about there should be no room or very little room for unity among the opposition forces, trying to take on a monster, a cancer. Am I dreaming?
Yes, yes.
Well, Brother Bird, yes, he's telling us of their experience.
You're right in love,
And I know some of you will come to say,
Babylon, you fail.
that is Antigua, we in Dominica.
Fire burn down low.
Asio Fontaine, good evening to you, my brother. Are we doom?
Babylon, you do. Doom. Babylon, you fail. Yes, you fail.
Well, Viva Mamo writes here, many listens for the United Workers' Party to learn from the division that emanated from the last delegates conference.
Babylon, you fail.
Let those who are serious about the future of the country take heed. And I approve that message, brother Viva Mamo, whoever you are. That in a nutshell is what I'm saying. Again, let me read. Many lessons for the UWP. And let me add as well the other opposition forces in Dominica to learn from the division that emanated from the last delegates conference or convention. Let those who are serious about the future of Whitey Kubuli take heed. Because Dominicans, I can tell you, we are in a very, very bad state indeed.
Suppress the innocent to deceive.
Again, I will repeat. When I hear coming from the mouths of men and women who should know, ought to know better. Some of these people, they are Bible or religious gurus. Who don't practice what the Bible that they read preach. A house divided cannot stand. United we stand, divided we will always fall. Take heed, people, take heed.
Building more bombs and guns, yet the babies are dying from hunger.
Folks, there's much more that yours truly can say, but let us get back to Brother Bud here, who is our guest, to continue on this very, very interesting, I must say, conversation we're having, talking about what transpired in Antigua and Barbuda, the last general elections, and how we can learn from not just in Dominica, but the wider region as we're moving on. Brother Bird, was it good strategy on Brother Gaston's part to woo across support from a divided UPP?
Yes, it was in the short term, but not in the long term. And that is part of the problems you have with political parties, because political parties exist for one sole purpose: to win an election. Trade unions don't exist just to win an election.
Sure.
That is a big ideological difference. And I believe that is where we have failed in our politics. because where the Labour Party is just thinking about the next 5 years, 3 years, like Mr. Brown likes a 3-year, 4-year cycle. A union is thinking about the welfare of everybody. And that is why my grandfather's legacy, 2/3 of it, his successes, when he purchased the syndicate lands in 1967, when he annexed Barbuda in 1967, when he got associated state in 1967, when you talk about adult suffrage in 51, and the Great Strike, and you're talking about free secondary education, that wasn't done on the Antigua Labour Party. But most people in Antigua don't know that. If
True.
you talk about independence, okay, in 81, okay, I'll give the Labour Party that. That was what the political will of the people, what they wanted, and the Labour Party went about getting more independence. But if you compare his body of work, the majority took place before the Labour Party came into existence. But the Labour Party has hijacked it. Papa Bird is Labour Party. No, 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 no. It only came in 68. He was active since the late 1930s and won his seat 45 or 46 in the legislature. It's something that people have to get their minds around and realize that we have lost something in our transition from the unions over to political achievement. 67 had to have happened because we are starting to be a states in association. We're independent internally, but externally they still manage all our external our treaties or external affairs. But when you're managing your own affairs, there was a problem there with the union, and then you needed a separate body for the politicians. And in so doing, something went wrong. Something went wrong with our party politics in our region is what is destroying our countries. And we really need to get these parties to rein them in. No, we can't go back to the past. As Alvin was saying, we can only realize the error. We can't go back to say pre-party. We can't get rid of the parties. But I think there need to be more third parties in our political system in the House of Representatives. People need to go to Parliament from third parties. They need to be independents. I think there were 3 independents. One got 58, one got 70 something, and I don't remember what the other person got. They were independents that ran at this election and all, which I remember it's a snap election, and those numbers are not bad at all, where we didn't even know who some of these people were. There's some guy Bascus that one, I've never heard about him before, and the other person that got the 70 something, I don't know who he is either.
Let me ask you there. At one point, I saw something that talked about 35%, 30-something percent voter turnout, but then I saw that was corrected to read 62%, if I recall.
That's not a bad turnout. It's not a bad turnout in such a short
right. It's not a bad turnout. 62 is certainly not a bad turnout. So my question is, would you say Antiguans were therefore eager to have come out and vote with that 62% voter turnout?
I think they had a 1-month party that everybody got caught up in. And people we call
it in Dominica Siwo. That's how Lofty call it, Siwo. You call it party. You're using the Queen's English party.
Yeah.
Lofty call it Siwo. Right, Lofty? A 1-month Siwo.
I don't know why it's me you want to stick that label to, Alvin, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
The party went on, and it went on, and everything was, listen, if you wanted work in the month of April, there was work for you.
Wow.
They had the worst roads probably in the OECS. They're really, really horrible roads in Antigua. They have not serviced those roads, any of them, since really pre-2020 COVID. So the government had put up our licensing fees for our vehicles by 40%. Might as well just said 50. I don't know why they didn't go there. put it up by 40%. They said that is to service the roads. Then they said, instead of having a budget for the public works for the roads, they said they went since last year to borrow $100 million EC dollars to fix our roads. They never drew down that money until the month of April. And when they drew down that money, the month of April, nearly every road in Antigua had some road works going on. And people who have no knowledge of building roads were building roads in Antigua, or playing around with the roads, I should say. Right? There are roads being built out in front of where I go out my yard. If I go left, the road is being fixed. If I go right, the road is being fixed. If I go straight over the hill in front of me, at the bottom of the road is being fixed. You understand? Mm-hmm. That sort of money was spread throughout this campaign. And all who, whether it was ALP, UPP, independent, non-denominational, Anglican, Catholic, whatsoever, black, white, or whatsoever, everybody who wanted work got a piece of that $100 million EC dollars. I do a podcast on Saturdays. And on this podcast on Saturday, I do it between the hours of 2 and 4, as Lofty said earlier. Last week, Saturday, I go for my buddy who does the power line on Nedwin. It takes me half an hour to go for him down from where I live in Buckley's to Kentish Road and back. Last week, it took me over an hour to get home. I went to parts of Antigua that I did not even know existed. I didn't even know they had roads, much less we had to travel on them. We went down All Saints Road. All Saints Road is that's the longest road in Antigua. That's about 7 miles.
Right.
Where you reach halfway, All Saints Road by Belmont. You go right off of Belmont on the Scotts Hill, and we're going up to the hill. And we went down these roads, and then we came out back on. It took us about 15 minutes to get back onto All Saints Road. I didn't even know these parts existed. And I did that, carried him down, and I did it again to bring him back up here. Then I carried him down the same process. And then coming home, I just let this, I don't have any timeline to meet. I went around the long route. I took it up Old Palm Road onto Herbert. So I just went around the whole circle because it was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah.
Wow.
But
wow.
I believe it was not short-term bribery. It was not about only handing money to people. It was about institutionally using $100 million government loan to spread it out to everybody as much as possible. And I believe that is the main reason why they wiped out the UPP financially also. There was no way they could compete with the amount of work that everybody was getting. It was amazing because that loan was taken out a year ago and they did nothing. They fixed no roads. Nothing has been fixed. And they just used it for the month of April. I don't know if the roads are going to be fixed. I'm waiting for next week to see if they're actually going to complete what they started, but it's a massive road program that is going on in Antigua right now. As of last week, let's see how it goes this week coming up.
Wow. It's interesting.
Very.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before done in Antigua. You know that the party has their supporters, the money men and them, and they make their contributions, and you hear about it being spread out to certain constituencies, certain individuals that can bring in the vote. But when you have $100 million loan from a government and use that on a snap election, it's not a long term, so they didn't go a year before the election or anything. They just did it for the month of April.
But like you said, several of those roads were in disrepair, from what you're saying, were in actual disrepair, a lot of the roads.
Most of the roads in Antigua are in disrepair.
Okay.
And most of the roads are being worked on as of last week or the last month.
But let me, I love to, before you come in, let me ask you, I know prior to you sharing with us that information with regards to the road work and that money, you spoke about the representation in Parliament and independent and all of that. What's your take on our constitution? And I think most of the constitution in the region are similar. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Antigua has undertaken constitutional reform like Dominica. I think the only place that I think that did something, maybe Jamaica, and I think Barbados was attempting, but by and large, the constitutions have remained untouched, whatever we were given from the British.
Most part, it's our independence constitution. It's
exactly. Now,
no,
what is your take on that question as it relates to parliamentary representation in terms of proportional representation? And as you said, to give a fair balance in the parliament. So you have as much views in the parliament across the board, because you especially when you have a lopsided parliament, as going to be the case with just two person on the opposition and the rest on the government side. Yes. What's your take on that as it relates to proportional representation in the parliament and the need maybe for us to revisit our constitutions and look at that? What's your thought on that?
I am more conservative as a lawyer, as a someone who has been government and politics. I take a more conservative view on changing constitutions.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I could work with the constitution as it is. I believe the failing in our islands is that we have not established conventions. Conventions to know that you cannot go there. If you go there, the whole system will fall apart. We have not established our conventions. And conventions are what are fought over in the United Kingdom. And they die for these conventions to be established. And we talk about the Magna Carta, when Prince John said, I'm given divine rule over you all, and I determine who dies and who lives. And the noble said, oh, you think so? Well, meet us on Runnymede, and we'll see what God determine who come out at the end of the battle. And then they have the Magna Carta. Those are conventions that a nobleman shall be judged by his peers, not the commoner back then, but a nobleman will be judged by his peers, not by a king who's arbitrary. Today you wake up, he like you, you live. Tomorrow he don't like you, he kill you. Those are conventions that are hard fought. I don't think these islands have established conventions. They need time. Me personally, I would have preferred Antigua had stayed as a state in association with the United Kingdom, where our status was in 1967. I believe between 67 and 81, our conventions are not there. Our institutions are not strong enough to fight corruption. Our institution, civil society, is not at the forefront. And the Constitution cannot work efficiently. Just those words on paper, they need to be conventions where it's a no-go area. And that is where I believe a lot of these islands in the West Indies are failing their citizens, because our conventions are very weak. And we just say, well, that's what the Constitution says, first class the post. Whatever happened, that's take it or leave it, see it another 5 years times or whensoever they call the next election. I believe basic changes needs to be made to our Constitution, like having a fixed date when the election will be called. I don't think we need to have any more snap elections. It's too much of a serious issue to be having snap elections at the whim of the Prime Minister. I believe the day of the election needs to be a public holiday. We get the holiday the day after, but the day of the most serious casting your vote, some people get to the polls, some people can't be bothered, some people say they have work. In the 2009 election, the polling, I think, which we had election petitions. Our constitution says the election begins at 6 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m. Some of the polling began an hour late, 2 hours late. In rural West, in Golden Green Bay Primary School, the polling didn't start until 12:45. Half the day had already gone, expired. But the court of appeal said that there was a substantial enough of election that was held to hold those election results as valid. How can half the day go by and you're saying that an election was held? When you say we like to say every vote count, but the law is actually not that. Substantially enough of election was called, and therefore the results stand.
Yeah.
I think that the election court, which we only go as high as the Court of Appeal for our election issues. We don't go to the Privy Council anymore. But I believe that even
You're part of the CCJ. You go to the CCJ.
No, we're not in the CCJ. We have the Privy Council. But
the Privy, okay, the Privy, yes.
Yes, but even so, our matters with the Privy, they don't go to our election matters and at the Court of Appeal in the region.
Oh, okay, I got you. It don't go beyond that.
But I believe that court did an injustice to us in 2009. I believe that the court should always favor on the part of getting out what did the people want? Who did the people want to represent them? I saw no problem if the Prime Minister Bob Spencer, who that happened in his constituency, they ordered him to go back to the polls to find out on the line, not to get away, but to answer the question.
Sure, go ahead.
Some at the polling station from the witness statements that we got. Some of the lines at 6 o'clock, a police officer would stand at the end of the line and say, anybody in front of me will get to vote. And anybody after me, that's your dog dead. You're not going to get to vote. Some of the witnesses said that there were no police officers at the end of the line. Some of the polling stations were still open. Some of them shut down. Some of the people were even trying to get over the fence to go and vote, and they were being shooed away. Wow. Understand? It was confusion.
Chaos.
I'm saying, chaos. So I'm saying, what was so hard in the Court of Appeal? Just saying, you know what? Have a do-over. Let us get everybody to vote from the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The problem was they did not get the material ready in time. The Electoral Commission was rushed. They started to print not only your list of electors, but they started to go by a photo list that was not even put into law as yet, that you can carry photo identification into the polling station. But the court still was very conservative. And I believe that the Court of Appeal, they need, for these regions, they need to hold these politicians to what is the will of the people. We have to establish these conventions.
Let me throw something at you in light of what you just said a few minutes ago as it related to the associated statehood. Someone on our feed wrote, Mr. Bird, I cannot agree with the view that we would be better off with associated statehood. This is retrogressive in my humble opinion. The convention that you speak of can be codified and incorporated in our constitution and law, the same time honored convention that exists in the UK. So how do you respond to that? The person is saying that, why would you want us to stay as an associated statehood and not have gone independent? Is maybe because of the rogue leaders?
I'll give you, wait, give me a second, let me just close the door.
Interesting conversation. Yeah, go.
I will answer you from the period of time. We had associated statehood on the 27th of February 1967. Right? At this point in time, my grandfather was never for independence. The founding father of Antigua and Barbuda was not for independence. He never was.
Any reason why?
I think he was more conservative. I think he been in politics so long, realized the dangers or the difficulties of being rushing for independence.
Not ready. We were not ready.
We were not ready. We were not ready.
Okay.
I believe what had happened, they lost the election of 71. They were younger. The George Walter had younger people behind him. He pulled away a lot of the youth arm and the executive from Papa Bird in the union. And they were younger, more militant set of people. And they were the ones that were pushing for independence. In the 76 election, in order to get back into power, they had to promise the people that they would push to get independence from the United Kingdom. Why? Younger people like my father, I was born in 1971. My father and mother, she was trained as a registered nurse in the United Kingdom. My father was a barrister law trained in the United Kingdom. They came back home, and at that point in time, even the movement in America, the more pacifist elements were dying out or had been killed in the form of Martin Luther King. And you had the more militant Black Panthers, and they were demanding independence. Yeah, and they're demanding in Africa. You saw all the sub-Saharan countries getting independence. And it's not a bad thing, you know, but getting independence, and what do you do with that independence? I don't think the experiment in the OECS has been shows any successful models of what we have done with our independence. I think in association with the United Kingdom, and there are some sort, even that has some form of checks and balances, or some influence of the United Kingdom on these islands, and not rushing the process of independence, in hindsight, would be better than what we have now. Because what we have now, if that is what democracy looks like, it's not very good. We have people here, the majority of the people who are in the party were from the UPP, or almost the majority were in the UPP. We have a situation now where there's no active opposition in my eyes, because the two individuals, Mr. Jamal Pringle and Mr. Trevor Walker, in my eyes, are compromised. I was allied with them for 8 years, and I moved away from them. Because when you ask them, let us move away from marching, let us move away from picketing, the numbers aren't showing up. Let us try to do a boycott, because we have the most important farm in Antigua, Dunbar's Farm, where we do our agricultural research and experiments in the north of the country. One morning we wake up and they're bulldozing over the farm. They're just wiping it out. What they replace it with? A minister of government, Darrell Matthew, has built a hotel on our most important farm in Antigua. That's what has happened here in Antigua. And it's a very sad circumstance, because the prime minister has a farm and he called it Farmer Brown. And while he is the leader of this country, our farms are lying dormant. They bulldoze over Dunbar's Farm. Christian Valley, if you take a drone over it, you just see all the farming equipment. They have a fence around it. It's locked, but they're rusting. You go to Case Bay, which they did the Antigua Black Pineapple. They've already sold the land to private holders already. We don't do farming in Antigua anymore in any great numbers.
But the Prime Minister has a farm.
And Mr. Jamal Pringle and Mr. Walker have not had any effective protests. Because when I mentioned them, let us have a boycott of Farmer Brown's farm, they have never even written me back or called me or have anything to say about it. They don't want their own personal business interests to be interfered with. So they're not going to interfere with Mr. Brown's personal interests with his farm. So there's only so far they will go to fight Gaston Brown.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm going from?
Certainly.
Thank you very much, brother Bird, for such useful information, I must add. The lawyer that you spoke, or we spoke with rather, I think 3 weeks ago, that is Joshua Francis, is asking you a question here, which reads, would you, brother Bird, agree that the U.S. visa restrictions in Antigua was an important, or not important, sorry, an impotent, meaning it wasn't effective, issue for Antiguans in the recent polls?
It was impotent.
It was?
It was impotent.
Why you say that?
Surprising because a collective, you see what happened? Mm-hmm. That CIP was introduced on the UPP in 2013, I believe. They only had about a year and a half before they lost in 2014. But to this day, they still support the CIP. The CIP is the cause of those visa restrictions. But to date, at this short election cycle, Mr. Pringle has not made CIP an issue because they still intend to go down the line of CIP. Access to our beaches, which is also has become a lot worse because of CIP, because they're selling off all the beachfront property or adjacent to the beaches. Access to our beaches, which we purchased the lands in 1967. We cannot get to our beaches, which we paid back a loan of £6 million sterling in 1967. But that is not an issue during this election cycle and never will be. They are in collusion with the government. What we found at the polls here, the UPP, another problem with the UPP, they did not say how they were different from the government, how their policy was different. They're both for CIP. They're both for this whole issue of visa restrictions. It's not mentioned during the elections because they don't have any answers to it. And they know it's all tied up with CIP, which they all support. It's a very strange circumstance. What we heard in this election after, you see what happened? The stimulus, the reason why the election was called was because they had a by-election in St. Philip's North with the longest serving parliamentarian ever, I think, maybe in the world. 50 years. Robin Year would serve from 1976 to 2026. Never lost his seat. 50 years. And he retired, and they had a by-election, and the Labour Party won from, which was from 2023 a strong. He didn't win his seat, but Alec Brown had a strong running, with a very strong campaign. They won amazingly, and then they called this general election. But at the end of the day, they had this whole visa restriction, which hit us in January. And late last year, they had the Broncos scandal with $15 million went missing. Well, not meant missing, went to purchase Broncos and Escalades SUVs. Under the Minister of Finance knows, which is the Prime Minister, on the Cabinet's nose, which is headed by Gaston Brown, on the who procures all the vehicles in Antigua, is the Ministry of Public Works under Maria Brown, who is the Minister of Public Works knows. And Mr. Pringle could not launch an effective protest to call an inquiry. It started up and there was a noise for about 2-3 weeks. And then as soon as Christmas came, by January, it was all forgotten. Had Mr. Pringle had an effective opposition that could hold the government's foot to the fire, they would not have called an election so early. But he was not able to mount any effective opposition on these scandals. And he can say, well, the coast is clear because that's just 9 days of rhetoric, and we're going to wipe out Pringle.
But don't you think, go back again to the party internal wrangling that was taking place? That is what that sort of didn't help them to do that effective protest or that you're talking about.
Exactly, but that shows Mr. Pringle as a leader had failed because he had 3 years or just about to heal, well, 2 years to heal the wounds of that convention.
Right.
And our opposition's job under the Westminster system is to be ready to
to assume office. Yes. Yeah.
Assume office.
Yeah.
And that by-election shows that Mr. Pringle was in no way, shape, or form ready to assume
office.
Because some of the candidates were just named in January, February. No, put it like this, not even the candidates, the caretakers were just named in January, February of this year, They were not ready.
So let me ask you, what about the I'm trying to find the right word, but what about the candidates themselves on both sides in terms of the quality of the candidates and the competence and stuff like that? Do you think that there were good candidates on both sides, people that could have what it takes to represent the interests of the people in Parliament and,
No, not in Antigua. We don't really have skilled or efficient individual running these party tickets. Mr. Brown chooses the members of the UPP to run on the party's slate of candidates because he feels that he can control them, because the die-hard Labour Party people are not pleased with these people coming in and lording it over them. But he never choose from the pool in the Labour Party, because he doesn't.
That's a problem.
A strong Labour Party family person who may be able to rival him, because the comment say he and so they're generational. He doesn't choose those people. He'd rather choose people. And even in the cabinet, it will always be UPP people that are lording it over Labour Party stalwarts. So what you have, there's a lot of disgruntled. Let me give you an example. Alvin, I went to pay my electricity bill at APU and take public utilities last week, about Tuesday, Wednesday. I saw an older woman. She just recently retired. You know, I would usually see her in court because she works for immigration. So, you know, they're deporting people and so on, talk and so on. I hadn't seen her in a while because it's been a couple of years now. And she's sitting down there in the seniors thing. I said, Revere, come over here. We're watching these. I have a friend abroad who's been watching the stream for the Labour Party meetings and their concerts and so on. And she says she doesn't see a lot of the people that you'd usually see. What's going on? I tell her, well, you know what happened? Those people are being relegated now. Mr. Brown doesn't really need them anymore. He got his leadership. He's entrenched now. It's not, he views them as bird people or comrades with generational loyalty. So they have been relegated now. So you won't see those people. You see a lot of younger people who are the Gastonites, as they call themselves. So that is the reason. But I blame those same Labour Party people, because when I riled up and told them what was happening here before Mr. Brown had established himself in the party, they said that I was crazy, or that you have a problem with Gaston because Lester Bird, family, is not in charge of the party anymore. So said, so done. What y'all want me to do now? No, a lot of them come to me now and say, you know, Via, you know, Gaston doing this, so we can't find work. You even look out for our. I said, I understand that, but you remember 10, 12 years ago when I told y'all this was going to happen, right? What y'all said to me, I was crazy. So what you want me to do now? No, the man is established now. What you expect me to do? You understand? That is the reality we're dealing with here.
Alvin, let us switch gear now and go to the live feed, because our people there, they are talking, they're asking questions and making comments. Selassie Kenrick writes here, and Bird, you can answer if you choose to. These Caribbean politicians, that person writes, are building their fortresses on the backs of the people because they want to remain stupid. That is one comment here. That is one comment from my brother here. Viva Mamo comes back and he says, I think our brother Bird is merely embracing the argument and augmenting, the argument presented by Alvin that our young developing independent states need to undergo constitutional reform as we mature as a small independent state. Marshall Lawrence right here, but why stay under such colonial rule? He's saying all the United Nations countries passed that way. No matter how or what uncertain the path was, they had to run for their lives, so to speak. 3 of them so far, Brother Bird, any one of them you want to comment on in the interest of time? We have like 12 more minutes.
I just want to remind me of the second one. I think I'd like to start with the second one first.
The second one is from Viva Mamo that writes, I think our brother Bird is merely embracing and augmenting the argument presented by Alvin that our young developing independent states need to undergo constitutional reform as we mature as small independent island states.
True to some extent, but words in a paper cannot solve the issues. Even with constitutional reform will lead to even issues with that new amended constitution. It's an on-the-go, it never ends. You reshape it, you change it, and there will always be problems with whatever constitution that you amend and have the newest one. So I'm conservative because I know you're getting rid of one problem and others will arise. But I said, fine, you have a constitution. And you know what it says in black and white. But if we don't have the conventions and the people, civil society, to hold the politicians fire to the foot. You can go and rely on those black ink on paper all you want. You're going nowhere with that.
I agree.
You're going nowhere with that. It's nice to have nice written words on a piece of paper. You know what they are? A piece of paper with words in it, nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
If the society doesn't hold these politicians to account, no amount of constitution can do the work for you.
Yeah. You said something a while ago, which I just want to echo, as it were, whereby you were talking about the importance of some of these states. Basically, their independence, they have nothing to show for it. Yeah. And I agree with you to some extent, because I can take, for example,
5% of the lands of Antigua were purchased in 1967 on a handshake from the plantocrat Moody Stewart. And my grandfather, he told him, if you give me just under $6 million, as I say, 6 million, it's a 5 something. If you give me $6 million, I will give you all the sugar estates and the lands. And because Papa Bird, the 2 previous years before associated statehood, had to balance the budget of Antigua, because that was a prerequisite to get a statehood in association. He went to a Canadian bank. He said the British bank would have given him a hard time. That's the bank that was owned by the conservatives, the people who had slave plantations or plantations in the 60s. They most likely wouldn't have given him the money. So he went to the Royal Bank of Canada. The man told him, oh, that's a tall order, Mr. Bird. He said, why are you heading in Canada? Because he knew that we had balanced our budgets. They had no problems. He knew we could get loans out of it. The man told him the next day, we went and see him, head office called me to give me whatever funds you require. Mm-hmm. And he went into Moody's store and said, you remember you made that just yesterday about if I give you £6 million sterling for that land? We'll go and speak to the Royal Bank of Canada. The money's there waiting on you. Those are the days where he couldn't go back from his word. Because man's word was his honor, his bond.
Bond, yeah.
You know, today they say, wait, yeah, I say so, but you know what? I could joke me in the mic with you, man. Cool out now.
But I think that is a very good observation you're making there, because likewise,
Alvin, just to wrap up a point that I was making earlier when we interjected, but just hold your point, Alvin.
Sure.
I am of the belief that the caliber of politicians we had back then, when these brothers or sisters brought us into independence as countries, as states, the mindset then was much more liberal. There was much more of an open mind. There was not that clinging on to power. There was not that selfishness, as it were. So it may have augured better then, but not having the vision that after these guys would have done what they did to brought us as independent countries, not taking into consideration that after us, meaning after them, there would be some rogues taking over, and they would have used that state of independence now, as it were, to continue riding roughshod over the people's head, like we're witnessing now.
Exactly.
So I firmly believe that yes, going independent is good. Being an independent country is good, but there must be some checks and balances that should have been put in place. I know we may have some checks and balances, but as you said, these are just things on paper.
Hindsight is always 20, yeah?
We've
hold them to that, because they expected better, I believe. The society was a different society. People were geared to fighting. My parents came home and they were
yes. I agree with you.
World, say it loud and black and I'm proud, and we're gonna fight this system tooth and nail. You see that in our societies today? The man that had their pants down at the bottom, you see their brief. They're having earrings like girls. The skin tattooed, they're bleaching off their skin. What they know about black power and black pride? That's an example of what my grandfather was fighting for.
That's dead. They
didn't have belts to put in them the loop in their pants.
That ideology is dead, I must admit.
Yeah. No, but
the land Antigua and black people now have nothing for show for it. What we have, They did
Alvin,
not,
what do we have to show for independence in Dominica, Alvin?
Well, no, I mean, I can't see anything. I'll be honest with you. I mean,
what, for example, France? We are right there between Guadeloupe and Martinique, right there.
right.
Watch
Exactly.
how far they are in terms of their development, in terms of their psyche, the psyche of the people.
But
and juxtapose that to a situation where we call ourselves an independent country.
But even the whole question of leadership and vision, okay? Because all the islands within the OECS, Dominica, it is said, made well over $6 billion from this Citizen by Investment Program, CBI. I would say Antigua must have made somewhere close to that as well. Maybe, I don't know.
I think the Prime Minister said in this cycle it's 1.4, 1.5 billion.
Over the entire period?
Yeah, for 2013 to now, I think he was saying.
Okay. So here you have a situation where the countries were able to generate all that revenue. And say in Dominica's case, what do we have to show? How did we invest that money back into development? So you could say, well, okay, we were in this program and we now can take that program and inject it into development projects, agriculture, manufacturing, small business, innovation, research, you name it. Nothing like that. And the Prime Minister stated that, said, if not CBI, then what? Now, you just painted the fact where several of the farmlands in Antigua are abandoned. The same can be said in Dominica. The farmers are crying. We had several estates that were just abandoned. And the point that you made a while ago with regards to Vierbird, getting lands for the people of Antigua. The same applied in Dominica, back then in the 60s, when E.O. Leblanc, then premier, ensured that the lands of Dominica should remain in the hands of the local. And you had what is called an Alien Landholding Act that was passed to govern the management of land in the country. Right. And like you just said, well, a lot of the prime property, the beachfront property, are being bought over by foreigners. Mm-hmm. What you find is likely to happen a couple years from now, Dominicans themselves won't be able to own land because you have all of those folks coming in. You have a high influence of Chinese nationals and all these people, they have more money. And the indiscriminate manner in which the lands of the assets of the country is being disposed of. So you're right. These folks currently do not see that vision. They do not have that same foresight. I mean, three weeks ago, I think, 3-4 weeks ago, we had the burial of a guy called by the name UNICEF. Right. Young guy again, UNICEF. I don't remember his correct name, but quickly the story being that this guy in his 20s came back from Dominica to the southern part of the country, Grand Bay. And you had one landowner, major landowner. The workers in that area at the time was working on the estate. And he threw out all the people of the estate. And the people had nowhere to go, nowhere to build, nothing. And this guy championed that cause. Again, he was in his 20s, 20-something, championed that cause along with other young persons. And guess what? The same premier at the time, Leblanc Patrick John at the time, the prior to independence, that is, acquired the lands. Acquired the lands. And today, if you go there, you will see every persons from Granby and that vicinity have farmlands, they have lands where they want to build their properties and stuff like that. So the point you're making there about the lands and the way in which these folks are managing the country is very important. And it's something that we have to take a strong look at. But let me ask you though, in closing, let me just ask you quickly.
Alien Holding Act, I think you said?
Yes.
Where we call it the non-citizens holding that. But it's not effective now because people are able to buy the citizenship.
Exactly, that is the point. So we have to revisit that. We have to enforce that. And you, to some extent, you're right, because this act is on the statute book. We have the Planning Act on the statute book, Physical Planning Act, And there are a lot of stuff taking place in Dominica that is contrary to the act. So, again, as you rightly said, while, yes, I am in agreement to have some reform done, but it must go beyond just the reform. In other words, if you have the legislation and nobody respects the legislation, to what extent does it work? But let me ask you though.
We're in the same position. It's the people.
But let me ask you, was there any outside influence in this?
And Alvin, we are unwinding down time now, huh?
Yeah. Was there any outside influence in this election?
From what I saw, the Prime Minister had built a very comfortable war chest for the entire party. And as I said, with the loans, separate from the contributions of the money people, he had this large loan that the government put into action in the month before the election. So I don't think he needed outside influence to win this election. They had been well financed with their war chest. Yeah.
All right, guys, it is 8 o'clock, like it or not. And so it's always said whenever good information like that is being dished out, is being dispensed, then, we have to bring it to a wrap. And let me, on behalf of Civic Vibes, thank our listeners, thank our viewers, thank each and everyone who tuned in, those of you who shared the live feed, those of you who made comments, those of you who were just there taking in information as usual. Brother Bird, it's about that time. Again, thank you for coming on, making the time. Any final thoughts, anything that you just want to, leave with us, leave on our hearts, impress us with before you leave our presence tonight, sir?
Please pray for Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica. Pray for us. And we'll do the same for you guys, because we're in the same boat. All right? Just Guadalupe is separating us, but we're in the same boat. I would say this, look to two things. The Prime Minister has a 15-2 majority. He has 2/3 to change the constitution. I believe they're going to try to make Antigua join the CCJ, which they failed in the referendum in 2018. I think they're pushing for that. And I believe he wants to make Antigua a republic. Those two things, now they have the quote-unquote mandate, is where the next battle lies in Antigua and Barbuda. So we'll see how they go about it. I believe they still have to go to a referendum in our constitution, right? But he has a 2/3 majority. So it's scary. It's scary down here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Sure.
And that is where I leave it for now.
That's where
until I come again. I give you an
story.
update in about 2 months or so. Let us see how it plays out, and we can come back and give you an update of the status quo in Antigua.
We'll have an update at the usual 100-day mark.
Right. Perfect.
Right.
Another snap election by then.
We won't.
Yes.
He served 3 terms before the 30th, but 3 terms of 15, but it's only 12 years because it's called him early. He's whittled down 3 years from the 15.
Wow.
Okay.
That is the trend of late, not just in Antigua, Dominica, and we are seeing it making it waves through the region.
Yes.
Brother Bird, thank you very much. We wish you all the best.
Thank you guys, man. Alvin, it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
and we need to
always be
always the union and them more, man. It's like music to my ears. These names that you're calling, I was only born 71, but I know the name.
I know, man. Yes. All right, take you all the best. Thanks.
The Labour Party, the Antigua, the union had a 13-year celebration in 1951, and they compiled a memorial magazine.
Yes.
They got statements from all the leaders of the Caribbean. Dominica wrote something to them. The union in Jamaica, Montserrat, St. Kitts, everybody sent in commemorative notices and congratulations. And there's several from Dominica. I'm going to share. I think I mentioned this to you, Lofty, and I don't know if I got it to you. But there's a 1991 magazine.
That would be interesting, yeah. It would be interesting
you see people right there in
that, yes.
congratulated we had a good fight, the last keep up the fight, Mr. Brett. It's going to even get worse, but we're going to keep fighting it. Okay, so I'm going to have to get Lofty. Remind me, Lofty, if I don't get to you this week.
We will.
Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Peter. Take care, man. All the best. Thanks again.
Yeah, all the very best. Bye for now.
Thanks.
All right. Take care, brother. Alvin, let's do a wrapping up. It's not about that time. It's past that time, rather.
Well, Lofty, yet again, another very interesting conversation with our brother via Bird III. He always bring a really good, interesting perspective to what's taking place. An attorney by profession and one who has been in the politics, who understands it. And his grandfather being both in the union and the politics. So, I mean, he brings a wealth of knowledge to the conversation. I think if you ask me, the takeaway from all that he's said this evening is clearly where there is no unity, nothing positive comes out of it. And I think that is where I think, if at all, Dominica needs to take a message out of that, is the question of unity. These politicians are given a mandate for a specified period, 5 years as the case is under the Constitution, to represent the interests of the people. But I think the people need to get more engaged, more involved in the matters that pertain them. And I think therein lies the civic responsibility of all of us to ensure that we get and elect persons to represent us in the best way possible. It is sad what happened, the manner in which he described it, what happened with the UPP in Antigua. But I think moving forward, I'm sure they would learn from their mistakes, if you want to call it that, and be able to present a much unified front for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. So, but I think the conversation was very, very useful, very engaging. There were folks on the feed that were themselves very engaging, making their various contributions. And at the end of the day, all ideas must contend, One doesn't necessarily have to agree or disagree with various positions. That is what civil society and civility is all about. So, yes, Lofty, let me just say to the folks who are still there with us, thank you for tuning in, for staying on board, and wish everyone a very safe and productive week as we forge ahead and do what needs to be done this week in our respective ways. So thanks again, and a good week to everyone. Thank you.
Alvin Thomas, thank you very much, my brother. I think there's one more comment here that I just want to read before we leave. It's from June Ella Daniels. Quite long, but I think it is making some sense indeed. The point that Brother Bud was discussing with us a while ago about the sale of lands in Antigua and Barbuda to foreigners. She writes here, as someone who promotes investment in Dominica, including the real estate investment, I must interject with the idea that real estate is being sold off to foreign nationals at the disadvantage of the Dominican ownership by the government. Most real estate on the island is being sold privately, she says, as it is up to Dominicans and those who assume the role of real estate agents/agencies to sell these properties to more sensible prices to locals on the island, Dominicans and expat Dominicans. The reality is that most sellers are taking advantage of the foreign national interest to purchase properties and selling at incredibly, she said, unjustified and inflated prices. At the end of the day, it is up to we, the people, to prevent the typical Caribbean story of our island becoming too high a cost for locals to afford. That's one comment here from June Ella Daniels. Folks, that is how we have to bring it. That is how we must bring it to a wrap tonight. Thank you for your eyes and ears each and every time. It is just about 10 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock in Dominica. The 3rd of May, 2026. Those of you who went to the north today and participated in this jazz business, this jazz Creole festival it is, or this jazz festival rather. That's some Creole aspect to it, huh? Hope you guys had a good time. An incident-free one. And do come back next year, huh? Let me end this program by a song that always energizes and fortifies you truly. It's one from Lucky Dubby you're hearing right now. It's entitled, You Will Always Stand Alone Whenever You Choose to Speak the Truth. So those of you who choose to speak the facts or the truth, as Lucky Dubby is in song saying, be prepared. Yes, be very prepared to stand alone sometimes. One verse of this brother and we're out.
My holy book tells us that truth will set us free. But in this world, I know you're right. Do you believe the truth? Do you believe in righteousness? Do you believe in innocence? Cause those that tell the truth are always on the wrong. Oh, then I wonder why.
So folks, that is it for us right here from Civic Vibes. Special appreciation rather to our guest tonight, Brother Vierbrid III from Antigua and Barbuda. Excellently done, my brother. And yes, you're a man who always speak the truth. So yes, I know you are prepared to stand alone sometimes. Those of your comments we did not get time to read, we do apologize, but thank you for your participation indeed. One love, Dominicans. Bye-bye. We love you.